Hello, my friends, and welcome to Quartet. John Peterson's my name from the Arlington Institute, and we're very happy to have you here. But first, we're going to start off, as we always do, with responding to a question that one of our viewers has put in the comments section underneath on the Quartet page at the Arlington Institute. Ruth Kenny has said, it was a great discussion, everyone, she said. And then she goes on to say, don't you think it's debt by design that will ultimately control people? And she's responding to our conversation last 2 weeks ago. If you can't renew your mortgage or purchase a car, unless you conform, most would lose everything and do whatever, would not lose everything and would do whatever they wanted to do.
You're quite right. Debt does control people, but really you're talking about the financial system, which is a debt-based system. So it is all built into the same kind of, I say, global controlling system. So if we go and get credit to buy something, for example, then we are in debt because we have that credit. But at the same time, if there's a, let's say, for example, a hypothesis, if there's a debt jubilee in the near future and everyone the governments cancel the debt and give a universal basic income, then that's also a debt, even though it's seemingly a form of credit. So in fact, the debt and credit are two sides of the same coin.
I have to say I have about almost zero confidence that the debt system is going to survive. And I think we're going to be challenged with some new system needing to be designed or put in place or accepted or at least suggested. And it's going to be a way out of that kind of control. So I really have not been very concerned. I have told everybody, my kids, my family, my students, get off the grid. And I'm not talking about the electrical grid. I'm talking about the debt grid.
So the question, there are actually two questions. The debt by design, it's no secret. The World Economic Forum has laid out the plan that is now being implemented. It's not in the future, it's happening now. And it's the debt jubilee that we were just talking about. But the way they frame it is they say you will own nothing and you will be happy. And you will own nothing because they will destroy the economy to such a degree, making it impossible for people to pay their debts. The government will then assume that debt, and the government will own the mortgage. The government will own the automobile. The flip side of this is that organically, spontaneously, from a grassroots level, there is a new economy, and it's already emerging, that cannot be controlled by centralized governments. It's the blockchain technologies.
I just returned, a week ago from Martin Armstrong's annual conference down in Florida. And he talks specifically about that. He and others have a somewhat different perspective side. And he says that there is a way to reorganize the financial system in such a way that that the currency probably get devalued and some other kinds of things, but it's not this process of just collapsing the whole thing. And so there, in a sense, there's kind of a fight going on between the two different approaches. What he also says too, and I've heard from other sources as well, is that the whole blockchain thing is essentially smells a little bit. The notion that governments can't get into this thing is presumptuous, that in fact the NSA didn't in fact design this, but there are really good examples, good reasons to believe that it came out of the NSA. So let's go on to our topic of today, and we want to talk about aliens and UFOs. I'm impressed that something profound is going on. The US government now has formally agreed that they have been tracking UFOs for they admit for a decade in a deep black program. And I know enough about how this system works to know that it's probably been a whole lot longer than that. And the media has been infamous in downplaying and disparaging individuals who even begin to talk about it because they just say they're crazy. But now something's different. When the government spends so much effort for 70, 80 years, whatever, systematically discounting and lying essentially about the whole issue and what they know about it, then you got to ask yourself, well, why are they doing that? What are they trying to hide? What's going on that they don't want us to know about?
If we humans on this planet think somebody out there is watching, that affects consciousness. If we think nobody's watching, then, the powers that be get out of control. Food would stop being poisoned, and we would produce high density nutrition for ourselves via growing food in special fields of energy, printing foods, which is something that is very common, and using immediate manifestation by assembling the required frequencies to produce food. Energy would change. I think energy based on the use of plasma physics and etherics would be used. The benefit for the planet, oh my God. One of the things that people from elsewhere cannot understand is how we live in such a pig pen. Why we would destroy our air, our water, our soil, ourselves. And so they know that every single toxin produces a tendency for certain bacteria to take over. And so we would end up cleaning up our planet and ourselves. And the last thing, there would be lots of new medical technology capable of diagnosing the state of every system, physical or mechanical, and correcting that system by changing it or resetting it to its original state.
I think one of the first things, John, is it would say to us that we are not the product of Darwin's idea of evolution. And there's nothing in our way of thinking that teaches our young people to value their bodies, to value life, because we're taught it's a random process of lucky biology, and this would change everything. The new genetics today is showing is that we're the product of some genetic intervention that happened about 200,000 years ago. So who or whatever is responsible for that is 200,000 years ahead of us in technology. Can you imagine what they've learned in those 200,000 years? It would catapult us into a very different way of thinking. It has the potential, John, I think, to unify humankind, to unify us rather than divide us. It would certainly break down the idea of religion, and I think that's part of the pushback, why there are powers that be that don't want it. But even deeper than that, I think one of the reasons disclosure is happening right now, you and I know, we all know there is no government, there are governments within governments. And I think it's obvious that there is not an agreement between the powers that be as to when and how disclosure should happen. There was a lot of evidence, strong indications that the idea of a frightening presence outside of our world, a frightening ET presence, could be used to create fear and manipulate a global population very easily between now and 2030, catalyzing many things we're talking about. The rapid disclosure diffuses that possibility because the disclosure is opening the door to the possibilities that that it's already happened, that these are our friends, that what we can learn and all the benefits. So once the attempt is made to try to incite fear and say, we'll protect you if you do these certain things, I think it's much less effective the faster, the sooner that disclosure happens. And I believe that's by design.
In a nutshell, it's an evolutionary necessity. I think we should also break this down and ask the questions, who is going to do the disclosure and how would they do it? Because I do feel that there's different factions, some wanting to bring this out, and obviously there are going to be some factions who are wanting to benefit from the disclosure. For example, some people who are a part of the controlled disclosure also have ties to the Defense Intelligence Agency about identifying threats to the global world. So on one side, if there's an inauthentic controlled disclosure from let's say the controlling powers, we could see a further weaponization of space. A weaponization of space as an agenda to defend humanity against outside presences, which of course, weaponization of space is just a further control measure over the globe.
You talk about multiple levels of activity, and Greg talks about multiple levels of government. And let me suggest to you that it's probably more complex than any of us understand, and certainly that we factor in a common way. I mean, for instance, in kind of gross terms, we're sitting here talking about it in just kind of human planetary terms, and you don't really know what might be happening and what kind of input and influence might be coming from other dimensions or other kinds of stuff. And we clearly all agree that there's something really big afoot, that it has many kind of moving parts and significance in terms of lots of new technologies and new points of view and understandings, and that getting from here to there is not a straight line, and that there's a lot of kind of variability in the whole thing, and who's trying to drive the whole process is uncertain for sure. So to all of our friends who have tuned in and watched this, I want to thank you very much to be with us on Quartet. We do this every 2 weeks. It comes to you from the Arlington Institute here in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. And if you like it and find this helpful, we hope that you'll share this and like it and punch the buttons and all of that kind of stuff. And share this with your friends, particularly because we're not aware of any other kind of a forum like this. So thank you for those of you who've been with us for the last hour. It's great to have you with us, and we hope that you'll return and be with us in 2 weeks when Quartet returns. And I'm John Peterson from the Arlington Institute. Take care.